Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now, like the title says, my engine is bleeding, but not actual blood. Turns out, the port main engine is leaking coolant from the exhaust manifold. In this design, coolant passes through the exhaust manifold to cool the gas before it is expelled to the atmosphere. Due to this leaking, it caused the port main engine to overheat during operations. So in order to come in safely, we had to put a temporary patch on this hole by using epoxy and then slowing the engine down to return to base. I have ordered a new manifold, but that will take some time to get here. So until then, we have decided to remove the manifold and try welding it and then reinstalling it to the main engine. So in today's video, you will see me remove this manifold, have it welded and then painted and reinstalled. So let's go. This is a before picture of the engine. And as you can see, there are two exhaust manifolds. On the left is the B bank and on the right is the A bank. I was given 2 days to complete this maintenance operation task because the tug will be needed on the third day. The engine was allowed to cool for the rest of the afternoon and I started working the next morning. Because coolant passes through these exhaust manifolds and they are so high up on the engine, it is required to drain the coolant from the engine before we start dismantling. Once the coolant is drained, I started by removing the air filter and air filter housing. This housing is secured to the manifold via 2 bolts and also to the compressor side of the turbocharger via a clamp. Once that's removed, I went ahead and cracked the coolant vent lines. I haven't completely removed them yet because they are attached to a bracket, and this bracket is being held on to the engine by one of the cover bolts for the manifold. With that, I started cracking the bolts on the manifold. There are bolts on the front and the back of the manifold. So to get a better view, I decided to go on the A side and start removing that air filter and air housing. And then I will also remove the crankcase breather filters. Now let's take a look at a diagram of this exhaust manifold. As you can see, exhaust gas passes through the sleeve and goes in this direction, and then coolant passes in the coolant passages in the opposite direction for proper heat exchange. In order to remove this manifold and get it free from the engine, I'll have to remove bolts 18 and 20 and 21 and 22. This is a picture of the exhaust manifold on the B bank. Unfortunately, I didn't get any footage because my camera died. Now that you're a little familiar with the diagram, here I am cracking the torque on bolts 22. I don't have a lot of maintenance history on this engine, so I'm discovering as I go along. And as I remove the bolts, I realize that the head of a few bolts are different than that they're supposed to be. So 4 bolts will fit a size 17mm socket, and the other 2 will fit a size 16mm socket. They all should be one standard, but it's not the strangest thing I've seen. Now that I've removed all bolts labeled 22 and all bolts labeled 20, I went ahead and started removing bolts 18. The manifold can be removed in 2 separate segments or as one assembly, and as such 4 lifting points are available, 2 on each segment. But the condition of these lifting points are very terrible and it would be time consuming, so I decided to use a lifting strap and the chain block to raise the exhaust manifold. Now that the lifting equipment is secured, I use a screwdriver and a hammer to slowly pry away the cover from the manifold, not to damage the O-rings. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I ordered an exhaust manifold but it won't be here in time. Neither will the O-rings, so there is a 99.9% chance I'll be reusing these O-rings. While lifting this manifold, if you notice, the manifold is being stopped by a lubricating oil pipe. So if you're doing this job, be sure to pay attention to all pipes around the manifold as to not to damage any. And there she is. I thought it would have been lighter than I expected, but I had to call in extra hands so we can get it to the floor. And now the manifold for the A-bank is now out. As you can see, the excessive epoxy used to try and stop this small leak, it was very hard to find. So we're going to remove the paint, remove the epoxy, clean it up and allow the welder to weld a hole. Here are some still images of engine parts and condition like the O-rings and sealing surfaces. Then we're going to repaint this manifold and reinstall. This is the area where the manifold sits. I went ahead and do a little cleaning of the area, you know, good workmanship. Now that the manifold is repaired and cleaned up, sealant and the O-ring have to be applied. I thought it best this be done while the manifold was suspended, as to not to have to grab on to the sealing surface as you raise it. The special O-ring and sealant have to be applied to both ends of the manifold and to the 6 exhaust ports sealing surface. During the repair, I took the time to clean the threaded area where the lifting eyes are to be installed. So as you can see, I now have lifting eyes. I learned this the hard way during installation. Once the manifold is suspended over the area, ensure that it's straight and positioned properly, perfectly for when you lower it. Otherwise, you may have O-rings shifting and possibly being damaged, and that can be a real pain. Now that the manifold is down and in position, I'll go ahead and try to catch some of the bolts, check the O-rings that all are still in place and everything is okay. Now that all bolts are aligned and in their respective place, all that is left is to tighten these bolts and torque them down to their respective torque.
Well, that's it for this video, guys. I really hope you learned something. Don't forget to drop a comment if you have any questions and hit the like button and subscribe. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.
meant well.